Hello, man. Hello, Mgtows. Let's see if this thing picks up. August 1st. Okay. Hello, man. Hello, Mgtows. Hello, man. Hello, Mgtows. I guess that'll work. I guess it'll have to work. Let's focus, 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 focus. Focus is everything in life, isn't it? Human focus, that is. Let's go your own way, man. Go your own way, and all your sins are forgiven. We'll do that. This is usually my Sunday morning podcast, but lately I've been struggling to do it. But today I woke up in time and got Dougie all in his place and everything. So I figured I'd come on and we'll talk about Mgtow. We'll talk about the modern Mgtow and what we see around Mgtow and what we see happening in Mgtow. And I think there's a real let me move over to the center. I think there's a real influx of metaphysical thinking coming into Mgtow that starts with religion, and it moves on to the belief and a lot of different metaphysics and a lot of different kind of things that we get kind of skewed from history, and it takes a path, takes you down a path of abstractional thinking, and it's dangerous. And most of the time, it's what got most Mgtows believing in the system of marriage and the system that they had set up. And abstract thinking will get you in trouble. It's okay to do abstract thinking when you're trying to put together a problem, or you're searching for a problem when you don't know the answer. Abstract thinking is it's out of the box thinking, and sometimes you're lucky and you take all the knowledge you know about something and you put it forward, and hence you try to make a good decision upon whatever you're doing scientifically or mechanically or just in life, to try to figure out some of the world's more abstract problems, that most of the blue pill people go through, and them problems are love and feelings and emotions, and to Mgtows, those are abstract problems. I looked around the manosphere this week, and there was that young man, Vox. Vox is his name, and he was exiting Mgtow. He said he was going to exit the Mgtow because of a lot of different reasons, and most of it, he wants to get married. He wants to have children. He wants to go down that blue pill way and everything. And then, but the reasons he was giving for it were they were crazy almost. He was over here and he was over here and he was over here and he was off the field on most of his arguments led to off the field arguments. And I was like, wow. That's a really confused boy, a really confused young man. And most young men of his age are really confused about things. I kind of gave him a little bit of Alan Watts and kind of left it at that. I excuse me, I'm still getting going this morning. Alan Watts talked about the depression, and he talked about the idea of money. And when the depression happened in the United States, there was really no good reason for the depression, except for a lot of people believed in money in this way, and hence this abstract idea of money having value injured a lot of people. And that's when abstraction goes totally wrong. And he uses a form of thinking, and he says, a guy comes to work and he says, sorry guys, we can't build this house anymore because I ran out of inches. He says, I looked everywhere for the inches and I couldn't find them. They're not in the nail box, and they're not, there's no inches there, and they're not in the toolbox, and they're not in the plumbing area. And, uh, and I just can't find those inches. And the other workers look up and they go, I think you should go home today because we're all out of inches. And they laughed at him, and so he went home, but he had an abstract idea. Inches is an abstract idea of a measurement of length, and he was trying to relate that to the real world in such a way where he brought it to be harmful to his manner of thinking. And that's what we did with money. That's what we did with money back in the Depression area. We made it real. We brought it. We ratified it into existence. And then they said, why can't we feed these people, these poor? There was never a shortage of food. There was never a shortage of how to bring the food to the people. There was never a shortage of space to put people. But the idea of money was an abstract idea that just bogged down the whole economy. And it was a metaphysical idea. There was nothing real about that era, why people should starve to death, why people should have been poor. This is some of the abstract thinking of this is some of the thinking of socialism that they rail against when you pit predatory socialism against predatory capitalism, and they go, well, you're thinking abstract and you're thinking abstract, and it gets all so too funny. But abstraction is a simple idea where we take something that like marriage, dating, happiness, things like that. And we take it way out of bounds and we make it into a system that we can't seem to get rid of now. I'll use an analogy now, which I came up with. This is Joe's analogy about marriage, and you heard me say it before. If you never get married, you can never get a divorce. So when we think about that, divorce and marriage is part of the same system, and we've all been lied to, because now if you get married, it is expected that you get divorced. But why do we disregard that as if it's not true? Marriage and divorce are the same things. It comes from the same line of the thinking. That's a queuing order from religionistic dating up to this thing where it ends. Now, in that abstract idea, you're supposed to forgive the idea that somewhere down here there's divorce, and that's part of the system. And you're supposed to forgive the idea that divorce is incorporated into the system to feed a big divorce system that gets billions and billions and billions of dollars and is pretty much half of our government in America. And they've incorporated it so into the system of marriage, an abstract idea where it's influencing all of our lives negatively. I'll let you pause and think about that for a couple minutes, because if you don't think about that correctly, then you'll go down this idea of marriage as if it's true, or if it's something's not going to happen. You'll disregard the risk in that and everything. Abstract ideas refer to ideas that are not concerned with real worldly things. Marriage is an abstract idea. It's an idea that proliferates itself into real action with real actors in this world. The idea escalates through belief and trust of money, trust of faith, trust of hope. All these things are abstract ideas, and we get confused. So in the question of marriage, now my idea to this thing, when people get married, and here's the ultimate answer to this: when people get married, does that reverend or that mayor that's marrying you, does he come up and he say to you, so you're getting married and that's great, but have you ever thought about when you get your divorce? Did you think about that? And if somebody said that to a male, or if somebody said that to females, it would open up a whole new line of thinking. Marriage, I've dated, went through all the things. We had a little nookie. We got married. We're going to have kids. But have you ever thought at that moment when you were going to get married, did you think of the idea as if it was going to be happiness for the end of times? Or did you think of the idea where there was going to be this point where Uncle Sam's going to reach in and he's going to start taking care of your female, and then you're going to be a slave to her, and you should think about that point of divorce? No, nobody ever says that to you. We pretend that it's not a real thing, but in the original gesture, in the original idea, marriage and divorce are the same things. They're exactly the same. It comes from the same line of thinking, and it's a cueing system that cues you down to this eventual point where you become a slave to the system, and you become a slave to that female because you disregarded the end product of that decision you were making, that somebody refused to tell you about, that, and basically you participated in an abstract idea which proliferated your enslavement. So we do abstract thinking, and how do we do these things? What is an explanation of abstract thinking? Is when you hear these lines about love and marriage, and a lot of times in the movies you'll hear, if you're open to love, if you're open to it, love will find you. And it's a very silly idea. Love is an abstraction. We all know that. It's not a little flying baby with a bowl that searches for victims so he can shoot these victims. It's not cute, and it doesn't serve as good advice for you to think that if you're open to love, love will find you. You can wander around and go, man, it's just going to find me. You're not going to do the business of thinking about love because you already predetermined that this love is a fat little baby with an arrow that's going to shoot you, and all of a sudden you're going to have. That's abstract thinking. We get a lot of these things with marriage and love. The heart wants what the heart wants. She's my soulmate, my very favorite, and all that. She completes me. None of those statements are real. None of those statements are. She completes me. What doesn't she complete about you? There's something that you don't have that she gave you. That's ridiculous. These are the things we call reifications. Reifications are when you realify something that's an abstract idea, and you make it real in your life, like those inches. If you make those inches into something you don't have or you can't carry around in your pocket, and for the English people, your centimeters. Man, I can't build this house because I have no centimeters in my pocket. They would say you're crazy. They would say you're crazy. But in this world of real things, I think when I look at the position of God, what is God? I think if there was a God, he would be minus all the abstractions and realifications in life. He would be a person that's so down to earth and so real that I mean, he doesn't equivocate anything wrong, or he doesn't. But in this world, we have, in this society, and in this thing, we have so many instances where there's Jordan Peterson talked about this. We have abstract ideas that run your life, like money. Money is one of the abstract ideas that run your life. You have a trust in the money buys things. That's what happened with the Great Depression. The Great Depression just made it so that there wasn't enough money for these people. There wasn't enough abstract idea for these other people over here to have the abstract idea so they can eat. And a lot of people died during that time because of an abstraction, of a realification of money. And that's what we've done. We've realificated. It came from, our money system came from a system of travel from the Templar Knights and back before that and everything, which was religialistic ideas. And religion has brought us a whole bunch of horrible ideas into this world that we cannot now shed ourselves from. Alan Watts talks about these ideas all the time, and he talks about what is real, what is not real, and what this abstract thinking that you do. Love is an abstraction. We know that there's a process, but we disregard that process is pre-groomed by people that are that want to extract resources from that process. And at the end of that process, divorce is the end, or your death is the end of that process. And that's a real thing. And Mgtows have to start thinking about those things and start sorting what is real and what is not real. We do this with religion. I noticed a big influx of religious people that have come into our space here. And let me go back to there's a big influx of religious people that have come into. I had to come back on the screens and everything. So I wanted to say hello everybody. Hello everybody that showed up. There's a big influence of religion, and religion is the biggest trap. And religion will start you thinking about marriage and about that Cupid that shoots an arrow in you, the metaphysical heart that somehow sits next to the other heart. And I've explained this to guys. Young men fall for this, that there's this metaphysical heart. They meet a woman, all of a sudden your heart's pumping faster. You think, oh, that must be that metaphysical heart that everybody was talking about. And it's not really. What it is bacteria builds up on your cell walls and everything in your heart. And your heart, when you enter any relationship where you're sharing spit, let's say, or sharing bacteria with another person that carries 300% more bacteria than you, she's going to give that to you. It's going to attach on your heart walls. You're going to feel like you have a sinking feeling in your house now, in your heart. Now, we mistakenly, that came a part of love. And we said, oh man, Cupid shot me in my heart. And these whole ideas come from that. And they're very terrible ideas to keep in your mind. We see a lot of this in Mgtow. We Mgtows, we sort through this bull crap, and we scientifically take an examination of our own lives. What did I buy into? What got me in trouble in life? What was the result of this thing that I did? And then I surmised that I had a role to play in this thing. Being a mature male, the role you play in these things, did I volunteer for that slavery? Yes, I did. I was lied to, but that's what the original paragraph of my thought process is. If you you will never get a divorce if you never get married. Marriage and divorce in that statement are part of the same system, and they know the system works like this because it's a queuing order. They're queuing you down a system. Don't you think they know that? Don't you think that they know that? And the honest thing to say when they do marry these people would be to say, have you thought about your divorce, what you're going to do when your divorce comes? Because that's the next step. But they don't do that. Now you can defy the system, and maybe 10% of those people will defy the system and stay married for the rest of their life. But in this day and age, when it's almost assured that if you get married at 18, by the time you're 35, 86% chance you will be divorced. It's 86% for people between 20 and 34 years old that you get. And past that, odds go down. So the real thing to say, and but they would never inject this kind of logic into their system because they are lying to you. And this whole system bases itself on abstractions and reifications, that they've made things that aren't real. And you as a Mgtow, it's your job and my job to unwind the garbage that they put into society. It's a very tangled mess of threads out there with young men like Vox this week can get very, very confused about what they want in life. What he really wants is to get his thing wet. And he wants to see that V. We always say that. That's the end line of most men. They want that V. And they'll do anything. They will start diluting their thoughts to make that process work better in their lives. They will start diluting their thoughts so they develop a little more wealth, so they can show the wealth off to attract that female so they can get that V. But they never think about the process of how they are living in this imaginary world and how harmful it's going to be for them after that end process and the real comes into the world. And the real is that they've already got this, that marriage and divorce are the same things, and it's already ingrained in the process. The queuing process, the end process is you get a divorce, the state gets you as a slave. Now, that's a very, very hard idea unless you're a philosopher. And Mgtow is a philosophy, and as part of the Mgtow philosophy, we see it. Not a lot of guys, they can articulate these processes like me. Not a lot of the guys go through this. They accept the philosophy as being real, but a lot of times in that, I see in not doing the book work and the studies about Mgtow, they often fall off like Vox, like so many guys we've seen, and it's always an F you Mgtow on the way out. They boom Mgtow F you, because there's a flying Cupid out there that shoots arrows at the heart, and I want some of that. Or I want the V so badly, I'm willing to delude myself into down a path of Disney holidays and fairy tale princesses and all that stuff. All that stuff is abstraction. TV is an abstraction of somebody's thoughts, somebody's ideas, somebody's abstract ideas that they put onto this planet. They put it, none of that shit is real. Wally and Cleaver Beaver with his mother with the perfect apron, and she was so beautiful, and the perfect father, that's an abstract idea of the way they want you to think about marriage, the way they want you to think about the system that works so good for the government. But in Mgtow, the worst crime, we were talking about this yesterday, the worst crime you can do is not pay attention to the female system. And the female system, the most important thing for a male to know when he first comes into Mgtow is the process of sexual cryptis. He says, why do females hide their fertility? They hide their fertility, and we get this whole big argument that transforms out there. The thoughts, why women are so sexually active nowadays. They've always been sexually active. They've always had these ideas because sexual cryptis has been ingrained in them for a million years. And like male sexuality, you're not going to take that away from them. You're not going to take that out of males. Thinking about females the way they do, just because you want it to come. And we have to look at ourselves in that way too. When we look at the female, sexual cryptis is one of the most important things you will ever need to know in Mgtow, because it simply says the female hides her fertility for a reason, because she wants resources from multiple partners. She wants, and hence we get HHS. We can't battle HHS and we can't battle welfare because that's in the evolutionary process. Arguing with feminism is ridiculous because you're arguing off the table with something that doesn't even concern you. Women are not going to change. And that's the part that we have to understand. This is the way it is. We can argue with these things. We can call them thoughts. We can make all those casual cruelty statements, but it ain't going to change nothing. It ain't going to change biology, and it ain't going to change this system. The only way we're going to change this system is through a bit of what we call cultural Marxism, and we start becoming the system. And for that to happen, the whole world's going to have to start thinking like Mgtows, and that's not going to happen because the IQ level drops below 89 or 90 when you start dating. So three-quarters of those men are never going to get what you're even saying. They believe in little metaphysical babies that are flying around and striking their heart with an arrow, a little metaphysical arrow. And there's this love that's real. No, it's just chemicals going through your brain, having a reaction to the bacteria that you picked up through pheromones. Dumbasses. And that's what I did last time I got taken down. But they draw up a lot. But this whole thing comes with the realization of bad ideas in their head, because they want so badly to think that there is this real thing. There is this. Now, in the world, as we go out, we Mgtows go out into the world. we start noticing those abstractions, how they place off the field events. There's off the field. Camus, when I read Camus, there's explanations and there's 1,000 little passages where he's such a great philosopher of linguistics of language that he shows you how to stay on the field with any argument. And it goes back to in Mgtow, the off the field argument to Mgtow would be feminism, because feminism is a negation to Mgtow. So that's an argument. If you put those on a bar and you put a bar across it, you can't draw a parallel or any ideas that work correctly on that bar in your head. And you can argue it all day because you started off with an off the field argument. What you got to do is you take a positive and you take a contrapositive, I call them. Now, contrapositive is a little obscure way of what Camus said it. But you take the male, the Mgtow monk, and you put it on one side. What's the contrapositive to the Mgtow monk? That's the blue pill male. That's the regular guy that's going to get married. And you keep those two on a field because they match. Because now you can start drawing a parallel to where you land on that scale somewhere. And it becomes an idea of an abstract idea of a measurement that works by you staying on the field with two things that are similar, with two things that are the same, with two things on the field. Now we see a lot of off the field arguments happening, and Mgtow and Vox did a whole bunch of them. And when I was going through his video and looking at what he was doing, he was just conflating. He was conflating religialism with his happiness and how he was going to do this. And I just thought, oh boy, he's just setting himself up for the same thing we all fell for. Camus is senpai. Hello, Misanthropic Zombie. I was going to give you a link to this thing, and if I was going to send you that, but I didn't know if you were ready this morning. You're probably just waking up there in the South, and I was not ready to wake up this morning either. I was very bad shape. I was like, oh, I'm so tired this morning. The sun was beating down on me all day yesterday, and you could tell by the rosy complexion of my beautiful face that I took a beating yesterday, and it's just hot here, and it was, man, I fell asleep last night, and I was like, oh, I just didn't want to wake up this morning. I don't know if you get that there, but I just wasn't ready for a Sunday morning this morning. And but it's hot and it's sweaty, and it's Ohio here. It's like 80% humidity and 80 degrees, and it feels bad. And we got a lake that sits in, and I sit between two lit rivers and a lake, and the humidity in this area you might as well, if you walk from here you will just be covered with water. Like, where did that water come from? Came out of the air. So it's hot, and it's summer here and everything. But today we're talking about abstract ideas. We're talking about taking and bringing the realification of abstract ideas, and that's all those things you hear from the heart wants what the heart wants. She completes me. She's my special other. Like, there's some magic thing. It's a magic link that goes to her, and you finally hooked up, and you hooked up that magic link, and it's like, oh man, there it is. No, it's just bacteria working on your psyche. That's all it is. And if the men want to go down, and that's the way Mgtow, the real scientific of it is just bacteria, and it turns on those chemicals in your body that makes you feel good chemicals. And all men that come onto Mgtow, in essence, we're all addicts. We're all addicts for one thing. We're addicts for that feel good feeling that our brain was pumping out these chemicals. And we were addicted to that. And we wanted to keep that going as long as we can. And then we found the real truth was if you get married, you're going to get a divorce, because that's already in the system. That's the logic in that system. So, and no one ever told you that. No one ever asked you that question. Nobody told you that when you're hooking up and stuff. Is like, so you got this great thing going. What are you going to do when you get your divorce? Have you planned for that? Have you? And if if the pushers of that drug, love, the love is the drug. If the pushers of that drug said that to you when they're pushing it on you, you probably wouldn't have took that drug to begin with, because you would have, oh shit, is that the end process? Yeah, it is. Yeah, everything about that is the end process. But Mgtow see this. But there's a lot of guys out there that come around and they want to dip their toe into Mgtow, the philosophy of Mgtow. They want to dip their big toe in there and just kind of feel it, swish it around in their mouth a little bit, see how it tastes. Maybe they'll split it out. Maybe they'll swallow it. They're swishing around those red pills in their mouth like, yeah, that don't taste very good. So they spit it out, then they leave. No, Mgtow is not a thing where you swish it around in your mouth to see how it tastes. You've been swishing a lot of things around in your mouth, and that's probably too many things around in your mouth. You've been putting things in your mouth that you shouldn't have all your life, and you've been putting things in your brain that you shouldn't have been all your life. And there's been people putting things in your brain that just aren't real in this world. And they're happy to get their end results about that. And the government's got that all figured out, how they can get you into their multi-billion and $1 trillion slavery system so they can use you as a slave. But unless you believe it, unless you can look at that and say, well, that's the end of the process, that would be the end of the process for over 80%, 90% of the people. So yeah, it is true. A 90% success rate in business. Can you imagine you open a business up the street here and you had a 92% success rate? And you would go, man, I don't know what I'm telling these people. My product must be the greatest, but I ain't saying nothing. And it's shh, because I got a great success rate going here. That's the way the government looks at marriage and divorce. They got a great success rate going in that thing, and they're making buku money on that. Do you think they want to get it? No, they're just the same as a business owner sitting up that has got a 90% success rate in this community. Most success rates in your community are 15 to 20%, and that's high. If you can get 15 to 20% of the shoppers in your community to come to your store, boom, you're in there. So the government's got that all tied down because they're not going to tell you the end of the abstraction is going to be this real thing where some other abstractions are going to come, some other ideas along with how these things proliferate into real life and manifest themselves. And these things that are going to manifest itself into real life through this abstract idea is going to be slavery. And you living in a one-room apartment, giving 70% or more of your pay to other people and not questioning it. Man, if you would have said someone back in the 20s and 30s when Jim Crow laws were around, that if you would have said something to one of those guys, hey, after my divorce, I'm going to give 70% of my pay and live in a one-room apartment, and I'm going to work for like a good amount of money, and I'm going to give it to the government and this ex here, the guys would have looked at you like you're fucking crazy. Are you freaking crazy? What are you, a slave? And that's all Mgtow was saying is we're not willing to sign up for that slavery process. That says, oh man, they make it sound really good. The Mrs. Cleaver, and she was hot, and she got a pie baked for you on your fabulous house, and she says, man, here it is, and she's happy to see it. They're going to feed you those abstract ideas to incorporate to your thinking into this queuing system that queues you up to the marriage and the eventual divorce, so they can have a 90% success rate in that divorce court and gain slaves. Shit, yeah, they do it. And they ain't going to apologize you for doing that to you either. They're happy on their success rate. And they hate Mgtow? Yes, they hate Mgtow. Because we represent the end of that system, which they've been making trillions of dollars off of, and getting the 20% of slaves. Every society needs 20 to 30% of people that are going to do the work Call it slavery, call it whatever you want, but it is slave. They're going to get 20 to 30% of those people out of the divorce system. You're going to become the factory worker. You're going to become the engineer. You're going to become the and you're going to accept that. You're going to accept that as some alternate payoff. And Alan Watts was right. Did the Great Depression need to happen? Did anybody need to die during that? No, not a single person needed to go hungry. It wasn't about resources. It wasn't about not having enough for everybody. It was about an abstract idea of money that failed. You lost your inches, man. Go find your inches. That's what he was saying. I look at statements like that from these idiots that come around Mgtow with trying to push the religion and asking you where your inches are. Oh man, I forgot them. They're not in my pocket. I can't go to work today because I don't have my inches. That's when your head's all fucked up. That's when you got to pull back out of this thing and start looking at what was the realization, what was the lies that were told to me, what was the part I played in that believing this bullshit, and then you become a Mgtow. But I see a lot of the new boys coming around, and they're still searching for those inches. They're searching for all those inches. And they ain't never going to find them. And they're going to go down a hole. There's foots and there's miles and there's kilometers and there's a whole bunch of things after that they're going to have to hurdle until the final moment where, yes, it will lead them up to divorce. So hello, man. I hope you're having a wonderful summer. It's a wonderful summer today. We're about 4 days away from the Thursday, I think, for 4th of July falls on the Thursday, where this place is going to light up, and I'm going to have to put earplugs in. It's the 4th of July, and it's probably some young men love it. They get to blow off firecrackers and everything, and that's coming up this week in a celebration of our independence as a nation. But I got to tell you, Dougie's going to be okay with it this year. Usually he freaks out and hides in a corner and wets himself when all those fireworks start going off. And that's what dogs do during that things. And he's going to be okay because he's deaf and he's blind and he can't hear it and he can't see it. So he'll stand out there trying to figure out what's going on with his limited senses. But I'm going to have to plug a couple of earplugs in and put those blinders on. And man, these kids are going to go nuts around here. So I hope you got some party or something with friends going and this week, and it's going to be quite a celebration around my area too. We're 65% Hispanic around here, and you know how Hispanic guys are about their fireworks, and they take it seriously. So I hope you're having a great day and a great life. I just wanted to explain abstractions today, and it's a good way to start looking. We come in here and we hear all the garbage that the blue pill guys are throwing at us, and there's word sentences and there's syllogisms that they use. A good way to start looking at breaking down those syllogisms to see where they're detecting lies is what they're believing in, what fake things are they believing in. You mark those down and you start doing the logic in your head, sentence at sentence, and then it's all a lot of work because I used to do this for the Army. I used to break down all the stuff, and when I was younger and fresh out of high school and fresh out of those English courses and everything, and I used to do linguistics for the Army, and all that propaganda we would have to redo and then take out words and put words in and look at the logic of it and everything. And there used to be people that did logic in news and media. But George Bush Jr., when he came in, the first thing was the Ayers case, and the Ayers case went to the Supreme Court, and they said, he said, opinion news is opinion now. It doesn't have to be logic. So they fired all those people that used to do logical thinking, and now the news can reflect their opinions, feelings, and views, and their abstract thinking, and we hear it now in the fake news. What is the fake news? Well, that's what George Bush Jr. gave to us. He gave us the fake news, and it's almost hypocritical that the same party is now complaining that the other party uses that fake news against them because they're the ones that gave it to us. We used to have people that went through Boolean logic and made sure that the news, the 6 o'clock news, was actually true. So, but that's I think at that point, Mgtow started becoming a real thing because you Mgtows, you men that are very logical thinking men, and men are very rational. There's there's a certain correlation between the news and what you were seeing, and it became unreal. It became unbelievable for you, and why Mgtow started slightly after that. It doesn't take a huge correlation to me to know that something was wrong. It brought on something. It brought on Mgtow. There was a reaction, and Mgtow said, well, we have to start doing the logic for ourselves now. And then bow, there's this Mgtow thing, and it's a philosophy that's based on realism. It's a philosophy that's based on on just being rational. And why did this happen? I don't know why it happened. People are greedy. People want to control the news. People want to control all the old people that are sitting around watching Fox News right now and believing that stuff. They want to control those people, and they want to get a vote. And if it works, they got a great success rate. Yeah, fuck yeah. It's just like marriage. The government's not going to get rid of marriage because they got a 90% success rate. That's the best a business can do. And the only people that aren't buying into it these days and these times are Mgtows and red pill rationalists. So it started a whole new movement, and I'm not going to buy into that garbage that Mgtow wasn't a movement. Mgtow's a movement of rationalism, and that's what it is. And call it what you want, name it, label it yourself. Mgtow is a movement of rational males doing rationalism and deductionalism and all those things we need to do to keep ourselves out of the grind nowadays. Because if you fall in that garbage nowadays and you start believing in those Disney movies or anything you see on TV or fantasy fiction Hollywood land, man, you're going to be in bad shape. You're going to start thinking like Vox. Go over and watch that young boy and watch the start picking apart what he says. It's so absurd, and his ideas are so warped that you'll just like, wow. I mean, at one point he was saying he believes in being a conservative Christian, but he wanted to be a socialist. He considers himself a socialist Christian that hates Muslims. And I would say, well, fundamental Islam is the same thing as fundamental Christianity. You're just believing, and you no, that can't be true. And he's buying into a whole bunch of garbage by putting false equivocations on the bar in his head that he tries to work back and forth on and try to find the best living he can for himself. But he's so fucking confused. He's like this blue pill 80 IQ morons that are still involving themselves in those queuing processes of your slavery and your induction through the V. and I find it absurd at my age. When I look at it, I go like, wow, look at that. It's like watching a little person, or it's like when us Irish people, we see little people, we go, wow, look, it's a little person. It's like it becomes the entertainment. I mean, it's like looking at a freak or a freak show. That's what you're seeing, and that's what a lot of Mgtows get off on, the enjoyment of watching the freak show out there. I mean, sit back on the Mgtow bench and you get to point and laugh and you're like, look at that weirdo. Look at the way he's thinking. That is so absurd. The black pill is like a Disney movie to me now. It's a cosmic. It's all a cosmic joke, and the black pill goes so many ways that I can't even hardly think about it. Someday I was listening to guys talk about. I can't remember the name of that ism. It was some not existentialism. It was the belief in some Anunnaki Anunnaki Jews that came down from spaceships and landed on our planet, and that's what brought humans to this thing. And I was just, I mean, that's another trap there. It's going to lead you into retarded thinking about the world and about the world you live in, and it's just another way to trap you in to some false belief that'll purposely work out in somebody else's favor. God, that was so stupid, and that's how they get the Jew world order and that stuff. Man, those guys are crazy. If you want to look at reals in this world, it's just a bunch of countries and a bunch of people fighting for resources, and that's it. And no matter how you describe a Muslim or a Jewish person or those evil Western Eastern Orthodox socialists, whatever you describe them as, they're just people that are trying to get their hands in some resources. They're just like women, and that's where your logic will lay. And it's like, how does this whole idealistic thing that they're trying to say, whether it be capitalism, whether it be socialism, whether it be any of those isms, you have to yourself pick out what do they want at the end? What is the end of the queuing process in that thought process? What do they want? They want you to believe in something generally that they see as the truth that works out better for them. It's why God always agrees with why does God always agree with the Christians? I was like, yeah, he agrees with you guys a lot. God has no friends. That's what I always say. This thing, this chaos in the universe, whatever put this together, uh, uh, in their opinion, I would say, why would you be his friend? That's I mean, he's shooting meteors and sun rays at you that could kill you, and all of a sudden you're his best buddy. Wow, I find that hard to believe. But we hear the religialistic stories about God has a best buddy. His name was David, and he had red hair, flaming red hair. Yeah, Kokuhanan had flaming red hair too. He was a demigod. He was a flaming red hair that was made of fire, and he had the spear of a sea beast, the last sea beast that he killed, and he ripped the spear out from his rib cage, and he has the lath, and that's what he used to kill all his enemies with. But it was all that, how can I kill all my enemies, things that are coming to try to take my resources thing, why these stories exist. Kokuhan, and that's my favorite warrior. Conan the Destroyer comes from Kokuhanan. Or Kohanan. Let's see, what does it mean? Kohanan's dog. Kohanan's dog he would send Kohanan, the greatest warrior, out. Kohanan was the leader that would send Kohanan out to kill his enemies. You know what killed him at the end? A woman killed him at the end. That's the great part of the story. This demigod that a woman killed at the end. It's like, wow. Oh, she also set him up to fight his son and kill his son. He killed his own son. What a horrible thing that must have been. But yeah, these stories are manufactured to get you to believe in somebody else's opinion on the world. And yes, they want you to believe in those things, from Judaism to Christianity to Kokuhanan to Beowulf. They want you to believe in something. It's your problem and your fault. It's your problem as a Mgtow to decipher what they want you to believe and what they want out of that belief process from you. And that's it today. That's all I got to say. Mgtows stay rational. I mean, stay rational, Mgtows. And we see a lot of garbage. We see a lot of I think that, and I will say this with conviction, uh, with what I look around in the manosphere today and all this influx of Christian thinking, I think the Christians are starting to pump money into YouTubers to come at men and come at Mgtow, and they're financing it now. The Christians and the Catholics and the Protestant, these Baptists and these New Age Christians are financing the destruction of Mgtow. So we have to be very, very careful not to fall down in their traps, because them are the same people that brought to you marriage, that brought to you the money system, those beliefs that eventually they can pull back away from you and take. They're the same people that brought to you the idea of the Father. If the idea of the Father was so real, then why can a judge pull it from you at a moment's notice? If it was real, he would not be able to pull it from you at a moment's notice. So be careful, be weary about those things. And as a Mgtow, we sort through these things and we do the logical thinking. Abstraction and reification are two of those things. Look it up, do your own study. When you're watching somebody that you see has some malformed thinking like Vox was doing, look for those things. Look for those things that that he believes in that aren't real. And then you go, oh yeah, that guy's doing some rhetorics. And reification is a when you look at this, you'll find it's a fallacy, the reification fallacy. When you bring something into this world like inches, and you try to hold that in your pocket, and you find out there's nothing in your pocket. Inches aren't real. It's just an idea that lets you do a measurement. And there's several different ways to do that. You could do it with a piece of string. But people start believing in those things. Ask yourself, what if some guy come to work and he says, man, I can't find my inches, I think I should go home. I think you should send him home. And that's what we do in Mgtow. If you come here and you can't find your inches, I think we just send you out of Mgtow. And that's what I said to Vox. I think you should go home and look for those inches, because I can't explain to you that you just brought something into this world and reified it. You took an abstract idea and took it too seriously. And that's what they do with marriage, and that's what they do with sex, and that's what they do with everything in their lives. They take an abstract idea and they make it into something real, and they make systems out of it, systems that will harm men and destroy men and put them into slavery. And with that, I think I'm going to go on with my day today. I don't know what I'm going to cook. I don't know what I'm going to do about Dougie yet today. He's going to eat probably get some chicken or whatever I'm eating, whatever I put on the barbecue today. And think about those ideas. Think about spotting those ideas in Mgtow, because you're going to need to, because there's a real push by real groups out there that want you to believe in Disney fairyland and their metaphysical God, whatever God that may be, so they can get something out of you as a Mgtow. And that's it. That's all I got to say. Thanks for coming around. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for listening. All you guys, Jetty and Sooth and Mike and Mgtow Warrior and Joey and Victor and you guys are the thing that's going to hold this world up. You guys are this thing that are rational thinking males that in the end on this thing, you're going to come out clean on this thing because you didn't buy into the garbage. And that is where Mgtow will be helpful in your life. Think about the reals. Think about, what is true, what is not true. And when you see these things in language, start picking it apart on when you're listening to somebody about what they're saying. Is there some Disney aspect? Is there some abstraction they're making up in there? Is there a measurement that he's trying to bring into to the real world? And then you'll start going, oh shit, we are all screwed, because our money system, our religious system, our system of beliefs, our civil religions are all based on things that are not true. And man, that becomes a real scary place to live. But we cut through that bullshit and we make it real in our lives and we try to make it work for ourselves. And I think it works better. Thanks a lot for each and every one of you guys for coming around and hearing my rant today about abstractions. And I hope it helped a little. And I hope this thing helps a little. And I hope this thing gives you a little bit of peace in your life. Do the introspections, find your spot, what you bought into, your place in this. Never believe that you didn't do something that started that bad thing off, what you bought into. You are culpable for your sins. And that's what I say. Your sins are now forgiven. Oops. Go your own way. All your sins, you can start a new life and a new rationalism in Mgtow. And that's a great thing. All your sins are forgiven. But with that, go on, man, and have a great life. And thanks a lot for coming around. And most of all, you know it, man. Most of all, thanks a lot for being Mgtow. Mgtow.